Hi there. Quick video from Colorado COMountainGrown, growing and making things with love here in the Colorado mountains. I need to feed my sourdough starter. So this isn't a tutorial on how to begin a brand new starter, but just for across the board, good healthy feedings if you already have a starter going. So it doesn't take much. You need to do it at least once a day, I have found. And if you need to go out of town, you can easily just put your starter in the refrigerator for about a week. So I've just gotten home from a trip and my starter has been in the refrigerator. I haven't even looked at it. So typically what you'll see is a little bit of liquid just rolling around in there. That's totally normal. I can tell that the starter's looking pretty good. It's still got some nice bubbles in there, and just that tiny little bit of water. So I'm gonna pour off that little bit of extra water and get ready to just do a nice little feeding here. So I have a scale that I use. I would say that it would be pretty impossible for me to do my sourdough if I didn't have a scale, because this makes it so brainless. I'm just gonna turn it on, and I go back and forth between two of these glass bowls with snap-on lids. I've used pint glasses, I've used mason jars, I've used pretty much anything in my house that's a glass container. But I prefer these because they're really easy and I can just go back and forth. You always need at least two containers. So I'm gonna tare the weight on my scale and adjust this just a little so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna adjust the weight on my scale and zero it off. Super easy. And then I'm gonna add however much starter you think you want. I usually just do 40 grams when I'm trying to keep the starter alive, and I'll bulk it up to about 100, 150 when I'm ready to make bread. So there's a little bit of that liquid coming in, but it's not worrisome to me at all. And I'm just gonna do my 40 grams today. So I'm just gonna see for it to get there. And if you do it over, you can always just add a little. I've got 42 grams on the scale right now, so no problem. I'm gonna tear the scale out again, start back at zero so I know what else to add. And then I'm just using an all-purpose flour for feedings. I do use bread flour when I'm baking, but all-purpose organic flour is totally sufficient for feeding. Some people like wheat. It depends on what you want to do with your starter, but I like to keep my starter really simple. And then I'm just going to add the exact same number of flour, the exact same amount of grams of flour as I did for the starter, so 42 grams. So I'm just going to sprinkle that in and keep an eye on my scale. And we're almost there. Until I get to 42 exactly. Easy peasy. And then the last thing is water. And I'm not an incredible baker. I think that my baked goods come out really wonderfully and I love having the sourdough, but I will tell you that one of the things that matters very much is temperature. So I always keep just a water bottle with a lid on my baking rack with filtered water that then has a chance to warm up to room temperature. And I use this so frequently that I don't worry about it getting stagnant, but if your bottle sat around for a couple of days, I'd probably change it out and let it go again. So I'm just gonna tare the weight one more time on my scale back to zero, and I'm gonna add 42 grams of nice room temperature water. And I've added just a teeny tiny bit too much, so I'm gonna pour off just one little bit there without sacrificing too much of anything, and that gets me right back down to where I need to be. So I'm through with the scale. I'm gonna just set that to the side and stir this up. I've got my same spoon here. So I'm just gonna stir it really, really, really well until all the clumps are entirely gone. If I could sing, I would sing a song, but I'm not a good singer. So I'm just gonna stay in silence for a moment. You could sing a song. just gonna get this nice consistency. It's really the consistency that you'll start to get used to seeing, which is not too watery, not too floury, just that right middle ground amount. And if you're feeding the starter proportional amounts, you shouldn't have an issue with it. I'm just gonna kind of scrape stuff off the sides. People get real worried about if there's anything left on the sides. I don't really struggle with that too much because I feed my starter every day, so it doesn't really have a chance to sit. But do make sure you use clean utensils, and I would stick to metal and glass over wood and plastic personally. I make sure that all the ingredients I add are organic, that way I can say I have a nice organic starter, and this is what it looks like when it's ready to just rest. So I'm gonna leave my starter out. I'm gonna cover it real loosely with the lid, just with a little bit of air, because that's what helps that fermentation and allows it to feed. And I'm gonna come back tomorrow and I'm gonna feed it again. Check back one of these days and I'll show you how to make gorgeous sourdough bread with your starter. Have a great day.